Hello everyone, this is AndresRestart, and this time we are talking about how this Zelda Remake rumor just got even more interesting. So if you've been following the channel for a little while, you probably know that I've been talking about this idea of the Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time seeing a remake, and not just like a simple remake or remastering, but an ambitious one, probably the most ambitious remake we've ever seen from Nintendo. They would be remaking the game to the point where it would at least look like a modern game. The idea behind this is that it would be something to tide over Zelda fans, the mainline 3D Zelda fanbase, early on in the Switch 2 era, and also perhaps factoring into Zelda's 40th anniversary and the big Zelda movie. And we've been theorizing about this for a few years. More and more evidence has presented itself. We've seen the interviews with Aonuma, we've seen the history of Aonuma teasing future Zelda projects, we've seen the Zelda Lego set of the Deku Tree that's not just about Breath of the Wild, but also Ocarina of Time. And now we even have some rumors to support this idea as well. There are people who have a pretty good track record who have also heard about there being an Ocarina of Time remake project. And so we've covered this all already, but there's been a few updates to this overall situation that's making it even more interesting. We have another rumor on top of this Ocarina of Time remake rumor, but also looking at how Nintendo's handling Mario's 40th anniversary and the movie, I think there could be some interesting implications there as well. So that's what we're getting into today. But before going forward, let me simply point out that I've noticed a lot more support lately with a lot of videos having to do with Metroid Prime 4, even some of our Mario videos. I haven't gotten around to Zelda yet. I will be doing something having to do with Age of Imprisonment soon. But basically, I just want to say thank you for all the support. It's been immensely appreciated. It's certainly been a little bit more inspiring. So thank you to all who have been subscribed, liking, and putting in your comments and watching. It's been super appreciated, and it's honestly been making a huge difference, so thank you. But now on to what's been going on. So I was first tipped off to this rumor from Necrofelipe of Universal Nintendo. And here they put on Twitter, rumor, Lego Zelda Ocarina of Time. Lego Group and Nintendo are expected to launch the Ganondorf diorama set on March 1st, 2026. This set is expected to feature around 1,003 pieces via the Brick Tap. So this is the first thing I saw here. And I do not know who the Brick Tap is, but apparently there's like this Discord group where people have access to Lego information, and that's where this is coming from. And actually, apparently, it's been heard for a little while already that there is supposed to be a new Zelda Lego set for over a month, and this Lego set would be Lego set 77093. For those that don't know, the Deku Tree Lego set was 77092, so this would be the next one, already 1,003 pieces, and it's coming out March 2026. But now, according to apparently reliable sources from this Brick Tap community, this is going to be a Lego set that has to do with Ocarina of Time, showcasing Link and Ganondorf fighting against each other. So, about a month ago, we heard about this Lego set. We weren't sure what it was, just that it would be about Zelda coming out in March and the piece count and the model number. Now we're hearing that it's going to have to do with Ocarina of Time and this epic duel between Link and Ganondorf from that game. And so this turned out to be true, which honestly I think there's a high likelihood it is going to turn out to be true. Yes, it's a rumor, take it with a grain of salt, but when it comes to these Lego rumors, like Lego sets are leaked left and right, so many of them. The Deku Tree Lego set was leaked, for example, so I don't really find this to be like something that probably is fake. In my opinion, this seems like it's likely going to be true, and we'll speak more on that in a moment. There's some other stuff to perhaps support this. But the implications here is that it's another piece of Ocarina of Time merchandising. Ocarina of Time came out in 1998. Ocarina of Time is not the game that you'll be putting out big Lego sets for unless you have a plan for it. And so as I mentioned, over the last few years, we've been noticing different things that seem to be supporting the idea that Nintendo wants to build up towards something huge having to do with Ocarina of Time. And we know Zelda's 40th anniversary is next year, and we know that the big live-action Zelda movie is set for early 2027. Similar to Mario, Nintendo may have a plan here to build up towards something big. We saw Mario Kart World, we saw Donkey Kong Bonanza, now we have the official Mario 40th anniversary, the Galaxy 1 and 2 Remaster Collection. We have a new Mario Tennis game, we have the new Yoshi game, and obviously we have the new Mario Galaxy movie. So clearly, they had a huge plan for Mario, and Nintendo may be doing something a little bit similar with Zelda. We've talked about how Nintendo could have a twofold plan here. First, they go big with Mario, and then they go big with Zelda. All the cross-promotion between the games, the Universal Park, the movie, it all connects and it boosts overall sales across the board and grants the IP wider, more mainstream reach. And we've already also talked about how we've already seen evidence that likely one of the next expansions, if not the very next expansion to Super Nintendo World, is going to have to do with The Legend of Zelda. We've literally seen the Zelda series producer at Nintendo Universal looking at something with the construction, so there's probably something there. But anyways, going back to this rumor, there's another interesting angle to consider here, because Nash Weedle also chimed in on this. I already mentioned that there will be 4 key dates next year with the Zelda announcement events. There are details of something that seem to be emerging. They are starting to leak. So, seems like Nash Weedle is kind of teasing that there's something big emerging here, pointing towards something huge, and I think the huge thing is an ambitious remake for The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. This topic, this theory, this thing we've been talking about for years, it seems like it's becoming more and more and more likely, and well, I'm just getting excited about it because I think this is going to be a huge thing. I think this is meant to be the big Zelda thing for a long while, because Tears of the Kingdom came out in 2023. There's like absolutely no way they're going to have the next brand new open world Zelda ready anytime soon. But what can they do early on that wouldn't take them as long? That would be a great way to excite the fan base and get a lot more people buying a Switch 2, an ambitious Ocarina of Time remake. But it could have an even bigger impact here if they also tie this into the movie. But I'll circle back to that in a moment. I want to speak on briefly because I still see people doubting Nash Weedle, and now listen, take every rumor with a grain of salt, sure. But I just think it's kind of weird that people are trusting other sources that are right sometimes, wrong sometimes, like at 50-50 at best. Meanwhile, Nash Weedle has just been getting things right left and right, being the first to talk about a variety of these topics, and we've gone over it before. There's been the receipts, I've shown the receipts, but just to kind of put up like a little document here, because I'm not going to go over it all. If you want to see some of the stuff, I recently talked about it in the Mario video a couple days ago, where I show some receipts of all the things that he leaked that were confirmed during the Direct, but you just see this list here. This is just stuff for this year. Switch 2 editions, Elden Ring for Switch 2, free Switch 2 edition of No Man's Sky, Metroid Prime 4 mouse controls, Donkey Kong instead of 3D Mario in the big April Direct, a Direct happening on July 31st, the Indiana Jones port that was confirmed recently, the Mario 40th Anniversary presentation, just confirmed. This last chunk here was all from the Direct, the General Direct happening in September, Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, Donkey Kong Bonanza DLC Shadow Drop. He teased a Bonanza DLC Shadow Drop, no one else did, and we know that's exactly what happened. He teased Metroid Prime 4 coming out closest to Christmas. That's what he said would be happening, and Metroid Prime 4 is coming out in December. Resident Evil 7 and more from this series. That was confirmed during the Direct, months beforehand, but no one else was talking anything about this. Virtual Boy coming at NSO. That was just confirmed. Mario Wonder Switch 2 Edition. That was confirmed. More voice lines of the Talking Flower. There is merchandising where it talks. So, like, this is just a staggering amount of things that were talked about before anyone else and have all been confirmed in just this year. There are other things. So, point is, clearly Nash Weedle has sources here, and I think to suggest otherwise is just, well, you're just not paying attention. That's my honest opinion of that. But anyways, coming back to what Nash Weedle said here, we've already heard him talk about how he's heard of the Ocarina of Time remake and how a couple years ago, he heard that they were going through some sort of artistic redesign, which is why he's been expressing caution and expecting this remake too soon. However, he's now hearing that there are going to be some key dates throughout 2026 having to do with Zelda, and now we're hearing about this really awesome Lego set having to do with Ocarina of Time, but just wouldn't make sense to come out this year unless they have some sort of plan here. And so what would be the other dates? If this Zelda Lego set in March of 2026 is one of these key dates, what are the others? Well, one of them I'm going to assume, if we're talking about Zelda's 40th anniversary, probably would be like a big concert event. I think that would be something. I also think that this is all building to an Ocarina of Time remake, right? So I think that could be one of the big games for next year. Now, what would be the fourth key date here? I'm not sure what that would mean. Is that just like a Zelda Anniversary Direct? Is that some other kind of event? Is that maybe them making a key announcement regarding Super Nintendo World and the Zelda Park? I think that actually makes a lot of sense. Like, now that they've gotten Donkey Kong out this year, it probably makes sense to at least announce their next big thing, which I think is Zelda, especially because we're going to have this lead up towards the Zelda movie in 2027. And so, coming back to how Nintendo's been handling the Mario movie situation, they put out Galaxy 1 and 2, and they also have this movie that's literally the Super Mario Galaxy movie. I wasn't sure they would do something like this, where they're literally pulling from a big concept of a certain series of games from the overall Mario series, the Galaxy games. And I've tried to always be quick to caution people that we shouldn't expect Nintendo to make movies based off games. But we are literally getting a Mario Galaxy movie. Now, I don't expect it to follow the exact same story as Mario Galaxy 1 or 2, but clearly there are going to be some elements that are going to be shared, right? Like, I would assume Rosalina is going to be in there. I would assume we're going to be exploring space. I assume there's going to be a lot of references to the Galaxy games, like all these different planets and how gravity works and different mechanics like that, and Bowser perhaps becoming a massive giant this time around. Like, things like that, I think, could fit in there, but it's still going to be its own story, just clearly tying in a lot of Galaxy elements. And so, coming back to this idea of the Zelda movie, we don't know exactly how the Zelda movie is going to be handled, but perhaps they are going to tie in Ocarina of Time here. I don't believe that the story of the movie is going to be the same as Ocarina of Time. Not at all. But maybe something to do with the title could clearly relate it to an Ocarina of Time game, and there could be a lot of elements that are translated over, like this focus on the sages. Perhaps the idea that Link starts off young and becomes big. Maybe they'll even introduce time travel. Like, they can incorporate some of these elements, right? Maybe the designs of Link and Ganondorf and Princess Zelda and other characters are drawing most of their inspiration from Ocarina of Time. Like, I can see that, but it wouldn't be the exact same thing. There would simply be similarities. But still, that's a big thing. And so we look at this Zelda Lego set that would be about Link vs. Ganondorf from Ocarina of Time. We consider the other Zelda Lego set that had to do, at least part, with the Deku Tree from Ocarina of Time. And also consider how Aonuma has teased things having to do with Ocarina of Time. And if there's also a Zelda remake of Ocarina of Time, they would be having a lot of things. They'll be bringing back this classic game that for many people is still considered to be their favorite game of all time. It's definitely up there for me. It was my favorite game of all time for many, many years, and it's still in that conversation. So Nintendo could do something absolutely huge here, and we could be looking at an ambitious remake, and then the movie comes out a few months later, so maybe Ocarina of Time Remake comes out somewhere in the second half of 2026, right? But they would also start advertising the movie during this time, and then we get the movie in early 2027. Like, there could be some serious things there, and maybe the park for The Legend of Zelda opens in 2027, and maybe we even talk about the teaser for the next 3D Zelda, the actual new one, in 2027 as well. So there could be a lot of Zelda excitement and hype between 2026 and 2027 here. It's a possibility, and I think a pretty decent one. Now, maybe we have to wait a little bit longer for Nintendo to tease the next brand new 3D Zelda, because they would be focusing on the movie and this Ocarina of Time remake, but clearly they have some really great options here to excite the Zelda fanbase. And of course, they can also throw in different spin-offs, right? I mean, we are about to get Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, for example, and there could be more. They could go back to Four Swords. That could be something else they could fit into 2026 or 2027 in the meanwhile. And I'm left here just kind of thinking about how Nintendo's handling the opening of their Switch 2 generation. Recently, I've been on the record for saying that I feel that the recent Big General Direct was kind of average. Like, it was a great Direct. Like, yes, this Direct compared to other Directs overall is a great Direct. It's one of the better Directs. But if we look at this Direct from the perspective of just big General Directs to open new generations as a big early generation Direct, I feel it's kind of average at best, maybe slightly above average because it's a good presentation, but they could have certainly done more. But looking at the grander picture, in the first 6 months of Switch 2, we're going to have Mario Kart World, Donkey Kong Bonanza, Metroid Prime 4, Pokemon Legends ZA, Kirby Air Riders, Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment, and then for early next year, we're looking at things like Tomodachi Life, Fire Emblem, the new Yoshi game. But perhaps in the second half of 2026, they could go really strong here and have maybe an Ocarina of Time remake, and perhaps maybe 3D Mario, like an actual new one, which, yeah, I talked about still seeming likely, in my opinion, for a late year release next year, or perhaps not too far afterwards. If you're curious about that, you can check that video. It'll be in the iCard. But what do you all think? What do you make of this update to the overall Ocarina of Time remake theory rumor situation? I am personally getting very excited. But that's all for now, everyone. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I will see you all really soon. Take care.